everybody, and in this video I'm going to be showing you guys some settings within Overwatch that not many people are aware of. Now, just to say straight off the bat that these settings are available on both PC and console, so it doesn't matter where you play, you will be able to access these settings no problem at all. Now, I get a lot of questions about my reticle. I get questions about jumping walls with Junkrat's ultimate. There's things that people just aren't aware of, and I figured that these settings would definitely be something that a lot of you are not aware of, so I thought that I would break them down and talk about just how useful they actually are. So to kick things off, we're gonna start with talking about Genji/Hanzo, because they have the same settings. Basically, the setting that you have for both Genji and Hanzo is to automatically climb walls. Now, what this allows you to do is actually to just go up to the wall and jump, and you will automatically climb it. You don't have to hold down anything, and what it does is it just makes it a little more smoother and a little more easier to climb walls. I actually found that this setting was incredibly helpful. I found that I could jump walls more fluidly, especially with Genji and his double jump. I found that it was really useful to just get this little bit of extra help to climb a wall and then be able to just jump around like a crazy person. It just felt more fluid, it felt more responsive, so I would definitely recommend turning on the auto climb on if you haven't done so already. Next up, we have Mercy, who has two settings that you can mess around with in her specific settings. I said settings too much, I'm sorry. But what Mercy has is the first one is to toggle beam connection. Essentially what this does is instead of having to hold down the beam on the person that you're healing or buffing the damage of, you can just press it once and it will stay connected to that person until you either toggle it off or you get too far away from them to actually continue doing it. This is helpful for some people. I know some people would actually really enjoy this setting because it allows you to have a little bit more ease of movement because you're not having to constantly hold it down. So it allows you to jump around a little bit better, it allows you to have more free movement with your fingers, and that can definitely be a good thing. The next setting that she has, which is automatically turned on, which you can turn off if you really want to, is that when you fly to a target, it will prioritize the hero that you are healing slash buffing the damage of. So if you are healing a Farah and she just jumps into the air and you're like, no, wait, I need to keep healing you, and you want to fly to her, it will follow the beamed person. I hope that makes sense. But I've definitely had some situations where I have been playing as Mercy and I'm healing someone because they're low health or whatever, and then I see Farah like jump into the air and I want to follow her because it's awesome being a Mercy following a Farah. But it wouldn't do that. It would automatically go to the person that I'm beaming because that's the setting that it is set at. So I can definitely see the pros and cons of both of these. I think for the most part you want to leave the following beam target on, and the toggle is just a preference. If you feel like you can move around better and have more free movement with toggling it instead of holding it down, then definitely give it a try and see what you think. Next up, we're gonna take a look at Junkrat. Now, Junkrat has something very similar to both Genji and Hanzo, but it is with his ultimate, the Riptire. Now, what you can set it to is that Riptire automatically climbs walls. So again, it's the same thing, you just have to jump at the wall and you will automatically climb it. It just makes climbing walls a little bit easier. I tend to turn on all these settings now that I've messed around with them a fair amount. I tend to have Genji, Hanzo's, and also the Riptire for Junkrat just automatically on. I prefer it on, it just makes climbing walls better. And a lot of people didn't even know that you could actually climb walls with Junkrat's Riptire, but you can, which is really good because a smart team will for sure be looking out for your Riptire, and it's very, very easy to destroy it, especially with Soldier 76 or Farah. They can just shoot, it's very easy. So being able to jump walls with the ultimate is incredibly helpful. So now you have a better way, an easier way to do that with auto climb being on. Next up, we have Lucio, pretty much everyone's favorite healer. Everyone loves Lucio. I was actually very surprised how many people love Lucio. But Lucio's setting is to hold to cross fade. Now, it is worth noting that this setting has been bugged in the past. I'm not aware if it's still bugged. It felt like it wasn't working properly, and the bug is that it just essentially doesn't work properly. So this setting, what it is supposed to do is it's supposed to only switch to the speed every now and then. So you'll switch to the speed for a little bit of a boost, and then it will go right back to healing, or vice versa. And the whole point of this is so you don't have to constantly keep pressing the button over and over again. What it will do is just speed you up for a little bit and then go back to healing. So if someone gets low, you don't have to panic and worry about switching. It's supposed to just make it an easier way of playing Lucio, so you can worry on climbing walls, for example, and getting to your team faster by climbing the wall, and it will automatically switch to the healing. That's supposed to be the point of it, but like I said, the setting has been known to be bugged, so I would recommend that you just keep it off. And personally, just in my opinion and my experience of playing Lucio, I just preferred to press the button. I just found it better if I just press the button myself and not use hold to crossfade. Again, it might be because it's bugged, but I feel like just pressing the button is easy enough, and I find that it's actually better for me to just press the button. Moving on to Reinhardt. Now, Reinhardt has a very simple setting. It's very similar to Mercy's toggle ability. You can basically toggle to keep your shield up. So instead of having to hold down to keep your shield up, you can press it once, and then you do not have to hold it. You just press it again for when you want to take the shield down. Now, again, this can just be useful for more free movement, because you don't have to worry about holding it down, constantly having your finger on that button. You just press it once, and then you can move around completely freely. So this can give you just better movement control. Some people prefer it, some people don't. It's not a setting that's going to be like, yes, this is the best one and this is the worst one. It's just going to be purely down to your personal preference. Next up, we have Widowmaker with another toggle ability. This time you're going to have the option of toggling on her zoom for her sniper scope. Now, I'm going to say straight up that I highly recommend that you do not turn this on. It doesn't feel good. Also, there's a trick with Widowmaker. I say trick, but it's not that tricky. But there's a trick with Widowmaker where you can constantly be zooming in. It's kind of like where you constantly keep your fusion rifle charged a little bit. It's very, very similar to that. You constantly keep your zoom sort of zoomed in, so that when you do actually have to zoom in on a target fully, you build those 3 charges of her sniper rifle a lot quicker. Now, with toggling zoom, it is very, very, very difficult to do this trick. It just makes it way more difficult than it needs to be, so I highly recommend that you just do not use it. It's not good. There's no point. I'm sure there's some Widowmaker pro out there who uses it, but personally, I'm going to recommend against using it. But her other setting that she has is actually incredibly useful, and what this is basically you can perfectly fine-tune the sensitivity of your scope when you are zoomed. So of course, when you're playing Widowmaker and you're using her assault rifle, it's gonna have a certain sensitivity. But when you zoom in with her sniper rifle, it has a much slower sensitivity. So if you want it to be a little bit faster so you can snap on the targets, or maybe you want it to be slower than your regular sensitivity, you can perfectly fine-tune her. You can have one sensitivity for just regular play, and then you can have a completely different one for when you are zoomed in. So I definitely recommend messing around with that and finding your perfect scoped in sensitivity. And lastly, for the hero specific settings, we have Soldier 76 and Zarya, who are both pretty unique in the fact that they have support-like abilities. Soldier 76 has his AoE heal, and Zarya of course has her little orb thingies that she can put on people that takes away status effects and also makes sure that they don't take any damage. By the way, people also don't know that about Zarya, is that if you put the ball on people, it gets rid of stun, it gets rid of May freeze, so that's something that's really important to kind of keep in mind. But that kind of is besides the point. The setting that both of these heroes have is that you can show allied health bars. Now, of course, the whole point of having this turned on is that if you're Soldier and you're perfectly healthy and you see that your teammate's getting low health, you can go over to them and put down your healing thing and potentially save a life. The same thing with Zarya. If you see that someone is in trouble because their health is getting low, you can can put your little orby thing on them and potentially save a life. So both of them have the same settings for very similar reasons. They both have support-like abilities, and I would recommend having it on. There's no point in not having it on. It doesn't do anything. It just shows you your ally's health bar, which isn't going to cause any negative effects to you. It can only be positive. And the very last thing that I want to talk to you guys about are the reticles that you can choose from in Overwatch. I get this question a lot. People are always wondering how I changed my reticle. Is it a PC only option? It is not a PC only option. You can also do it on console, and you can find it under controls. So you have video, sound, and controls. You find it under here and it will say reticle. From here you can choose to have bloom on or off. Doesn't really matter. This is just a preference thing. You can then also choose if you want the default reticle, a circle, crosshairs, short crosshairs, or a dot, and you can then choose what color you want to be. Of course, the color is a pure preference thing. The reason why I started using a dot personally is just because I found that it made me a little bit more accurate. It just made it be like, this is a tiny dot. This is where your shot is going. It's not going anywhere else. And that is why I chose to use the dot over any of the others. But I highly recommend just trying each of these out and seeing which one worked for you, because I found that changing my crosshair actually made a huge difference. So it's definitely worth messing around with them and seeing which one you prefer. But that is gonna do it for the video, guys, talking about the secret settings that are secret if you don't look into them. I mean, they're not obviously there. The secret settings in Overwatch for some of the heroes that have them available, and also taking a look at the reticles and how to change them. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will speak to you awesome people later. Bye.